today I'm going to do a Q&A. We hit 20k followers on TikTok, so as promised I've set up a YouTube channel. I'm going to use it for longer form content and to answer your guys' questions, put some tutorials on for teachers, athletes. We're going to do some nutrition stuff as well as mindset and general running and recovery advice. Let us know in the comments anything that you want to see. Over the next few weeks we're going to try and do some vlogs like day in the life of, eating, training, everything like that. We're just going to try and give you as much content as possible, but if there's anything specific you want to see, just drop it in the comments and let us know. So the format's going to be, took some questions off the Instagram, took some questions off TikTok. Some of them are longer form. Joe's going to ask me them, I'm going to try and answer them probably in about 30 seconds to a minute. We've also got some quickfire questions, and then Joe's been on the TikTok and he's picked out a few questions and comments, and we're going to do a bit of a Slouse react to. So he's going to call out the comments, I don't know what they are. Joe's going to ask me the questions, I'll do my best to answer them, and hopefully you'll find it useful.
Alright then, so what would you recommend as a good warm-up for a long run, and would there be any differences in that warm-up if you're doing sprints?
So, done quite a few warm-up videos, like tutorials. The main pattern of a warm-up is always to go from jogging into some mobility and dynamic stretching. Then we do walking drills, skipping drills, running drills, and regardless of the distance or event, that's the kind of pattern of the warm-up. A lot of people though, when they're doing longer runs, they always tell me, I'll just warm up into it. First mile's the warm-up, and that's fine. It's completely up to you how you warm up, but I think if you're mobilising and you're doing some dynamic flexibility before you head out on the run, it's definitely going to help you. Sprints being explosive, you do need to activate the muscles, and you're just risking injury if you aren't going through your proper warm-up protocols.
Good. So what to eat during a heptathlon event?
Okay, so nutrition is something that I don't necessarily dictate to my athletes what they should and shouldn't eat. I try and guide them and give them some advice on what they should and shouldn't eat, but it is quite a personal thing. So some of my athletes will eat all day during a heptathlon or a decathlon or across the weekend. They'll eat a lot, others won't. Lucy, one of my athletes, she's diabetic, so it's really important for her that we keep a real close eye on what she eats and when, to try and make sure she's got enough energy for the events. But if her bloods are high or low, we have to respond to that. I would recommend definitely the night before you want to be carb loading like you would for any sport, and then during the day get a good breakfast in you, because a lot of time after breakfast you're not going to eat for a while. You can do a few events, and then grazing during the day. Just take foods that you know isn't going to be a struggle to eat, and then reload again on the night. I think liquids are good. So kind of smoothies, protein shakes, things like that. But you want stuff that's going to settle in your stomach. So make sure you practice. Anything you're going to eat, make sure you have that training during the week so you know how your body's going to respond.
Alright, next one is tips for positive mindset.
Okay, so positive mindset. I did a master's degree in sports psychology, which has helped me to have a really good kind of grounding on how to implement it, but it's situation specific and it's athlete specific. There's no right or wrong, but there's certain things you can do that is going to help you. I put up a video the other day and I talked about reframing. I think that's a really important thing to do, and if you have a bad experience or result that's not what you wanted, I think you need to reframe it. Not necessarily everyone's like, take the positives. You don't need to just take the positives. You need to actually reframe it, put it into context, rationalise it, and then move on from it. And another thing, I stole it from another coach that I put out not long ago. It was about mindset. Kind of, if you could hear your voice playing out loud in the room that you're training in, would you be happy about it? So if I'm doing a workout and I'm saying to myself, oh, I'm so tired, I'm so this, oh, I'm struggling, I can't be bothered. If that was playing out loud, would I be embarrassed by it? And I think I would be. So you've got to try and say things in your head that you wouldn't mind the rest of the room hearing. I think that's really important, that the things you're saying in your head are positive. The question, sorry?
As a teacher, I'm always looking for new and adventurous kids' warm-ups, any recommendations?
Yeah, so I did get quite a few comments off teachers asking how can I make this relevant for the kids I work with. And I actually work in a school, or a couple of schools, 2 days a week. And a lot of the things I do with the kids at school is very similar to what I do with the adults at the track. You've got to keep it fun, you've got to keep it simple. I always play warm-up games with the kids at school. If I'm doing a jumping lesson, we'll play a jumping game, really simple. One that the kids absolutely love is we have a line. We call one side of the line the bank, one side the river. And if I say river, they jump over the line into the river. If I say bank, they jump out onto the bank. You can mix it up, play it in reverse, things like that, but just really simple things like that. They're jumping, they're using their brains, they're switching on, they're concentrating. I'm going to try and put some tutorials together with games that you can play with primary school age kids, secondary kids, and how it leads into events. And I'll try and put them on the YouTube channel.
Right. How can I improve my shoulder mobility for snatching?
Yeah, so I'm not a weightlifting coach, but I have worked with a lot of athletes on their lifting. And again, I've looked into mobility and stuff. And I think, again, mobility depends on your own body. What works for you, what works for you on that specific day as well. I think lots of mobility with your shoulders, trying to make sure they're moving through the right range of motion. Spending time maybe doing some self-massage on the shoulder joint as well. And lots of accessory work. It's not necessarily the big lifts you need to be focusing on. You need to be thinking about, can you move a light plate up and down under control? Is there a weakness in there? And if you are experiencing problems, I always say to people, go and see someone, go and see a professional, go and see a physio. Because that 30 quid you might spend on that session is definitely worth not missing training for weeks or months.
Right. Is there a cut-off age to starting athletics and hoping to go international?
I think each sport varies a little bit. So some sports are more like they're better for late developers, and in athletics some events are better for late developers, but there's no written rule. In Australia they start athletics at like 8 years old. In America a lot of them start in kind of college, high school, college age. I would say you want to be playing lots of different sports in your early teens. When you get into around 15, 16 you want to be specialising. 17, 18 you want to be taking it seriously, but you see all the time, people get breakthroughs at 21, 22. Even this year in the GB team, there was people getting their first call-ups at 29. It just varies. I would say a big part of it is whether you trust the process, whether you embrace the training, and whether you have that long-term mindset. Like, people win the Olympics mid-30s. Doesn't mean that they started in their 30s, but sometimes it takes a little bit longer for some people. Do
you have any tips for shin splints?
Yeah, so I've done a video about my 5 top tips for shin splints. It's one of them, again, if you're really struggling, you need to see a medical professional. I'm a coach, not a physio or a sports masseuse or anything like that. But I do think with shin splints, you've just got to look after your calves, your Achilles, your ankles, make sure everything's moving well, so that when your foot hits the ground, you're reducing the impact on the shin. Maybe record yourself running and watch your running back. So if your foot's landing underneath the hip, that's safe. If it's landing in front of you, you're putting a lot of force through the shin. That's what causes the shin splints. The things I would do for it is making sure I'm stretching, mobilising. You can wear compression socks, sometimes that helps. We do self-massage a lot, so kind of getting into the calves and around the shins, use like CBD balm. We get ours from Pure Sport, and you can really try and get that into the muscle groups around the shin, and you're trying to make sure that you're reducing that impact. So wear good trainers, definitely like make sure the trainers you're wearing are going to take that impact away. So we're going to do some quick fire questions now, so a little bit of a shorter answer to them, a little bit more random. Joe's planned them, so we'll see how that goes.
Right then, first one, what's your favourite event?
Favourite event in athletics is hurdles.
What would be your go-to pre-training meal for any event?
I would always encourage my athletes to have some kind of pasta or bread, some carb-based meal. If it's a little bit too close to the comp, then I would always say something more like porridge or something that's easily digestible, more liquid.
Right. What's the most useful gym exercise?
Hang power clean, definitely, because it's for speed.
Right. Would you prefer a summer holiday or a winter holiday?
Unless it's skiing, summer.
And what's your favourite holiday destination?
For training, Portugal. Non-training, Las Vegas. Can't beat it.
What event could you live without?
Anything long, like the marathon, not interested. Like, I'll watch it if I have to, or if there's a British person in it. I respect all the events in their own way. I respect people who run the marathon. I just don't particularly want to watch somebody run for 2 hours in the same way I wouldn't want to watch someone jump over and over again for 2 hours.
What do you think's more impressive, a long jump or a high jump?
I think when you lay a long jump out on the floor, I think it's most impressive that someone goes from that point to that point. I think a high jump, it looks high, but I don't think it's quite as impressive. Like, I just think a long jump, when you lay out 9 meters, well, 895 on the floor, it's actually mental that somebody can travel that far without touching the ground.
Have you ever tried pole vault before?
Yes, I'm terrible at it. Really bad at pole vault. I'm too scared to go upside. Well, I can do it, but like, I don't fully commit to it.
And who do you think is the greatest ever track athlete?
Greatest ever track athlete is Usain Bolt. People say about drugs and things like that. I honestly just think he's a freak. He's just somebody who was born to do what he did. When you break down the runs that he did and his progression, the guy ran under 20 seconds for the 200 meters as a teenager. So he actually only improved less than a second in his whole career. Like, that's just phenomenal. Like, that talent level is just crazy. So we've done quick fire questions. Now we're going to do Slaus Reacts. So Joe's going to let me know some of the comments or statements that are on TikTok videos, and I'm going to give you my opinion on the comment.
So this first one is on high jump. Someone's asked, any tips for beginners? My first year trying it.
Oh yeah, that's a nice easy one to start with. Best thing with high jump is enjoy the event, spend time actually watching it, give it a go. It's quite a weird one, throwing your head back over a bar, but just absorb, watch lots of other jumpers and just give it a go. I think you've got to enjoy it. It's a rhythm event. Once you start making the high jump technical, it can just mess with your head.
Right, the next one, any tips for 200s?
For the 200, it is about sprinting, it is about top end speed, but it's how you get to that speed. If you just hammer it round the curve, you're going to start getting lactic, you're going to lose your form. You've got to try and kind of wind up that speed. You get out hard, but you've got to have another gear so that when you come off that bend, you get the whip into the straight and then hold your mechanics to the end.
Right, this next one's on a triple jump video. How can I go further on my triple jump? I only started track three-ish weeks ago and I want to get better.
Okay, triple jump takes time. You need to do lots of rhythm work, speed work, plyometrics. It batters the body. So I just think with triple jump, give it time, break it down, take it slowly, and you will get huge improvements quite quick in triple jump because there's 3 phases, so you get a better hop, a step and a jump. It all adds up. So just kind of, again, absorb the event, learn the technique, learn the movements, and just go from there.
The next one, could you give a few takeoff drills, please? I'm a PE teacher and would appreciate some more ideas. Thanks.
Yeah, so it depends on the age, but with primary school kids, I always just tell them to reach as high as they can, drive the knee, drive the arm, try and reach up into the air and spend as much time in the air as possible, because kids always want to go flying forwards. You want to stay in the air as long as you can in a jump, because once you've landed, you can't go any further. So we do loads of skipping, lots of high skipping, lots of jumping up and reaching things, throwing a ball up in the air and jumping up to grab it. Just lots of things like that. Taking off on 1 foot, landing on 2, jumping over things, like we put cones on the floor, and just general jumping and skipping. Try and make it into a game of some kind. If you call out number 1, they have to take off on the left foot. But again, with kids, just keep it fun, keep it as simple as possible.
So this next one's on a running video. It's two-part. Well, two different questions here, but the same. What do you mean by picking up your heel, and what do you mean by planting your foot under your hip?
Okay, so picking up your heel. When we run, imagine how pedals go round on a bike. That's what your feet should do. So you should pick up your heel and it comes up and over, pushes the ground, and you're cycling your heel. Loads of people think you pick your knees up. When you pick your knees up, you're actually lifting your knees, but you're not cycling anymore. You're swinging your legs. So you want to pick the heel up, step up, over, push down, strike the floor, and that's what builds momentum. So that's really important. And what's the second part of that?
What do you mean when you say plant your foot under your hip?
Yeah, so that's a little bit like the shin splints thing I said before. You've got to make sure that the foot returns under the hip. You put the foot out in front, that's a braking force, and all that impact goes through your body and it slows you down. You put it behind you, your body's going to tilt forwards, you're going to be leaning forwards, and your stride isn't going to cycle anymore. So you put it underneath the hip, your body, if you freeze frame it, should all be lined up, and you cycle around that foot back under the hip, and then you can push off. Yeah, so I think that's some of the comments that we've had, it's some of the questions that we had. Have we answered all the long form questions? Yeah, so hopefully you've enjoyed this first Q&A. I'm going to try and get this out on YouTube maybe once a week. I'll do a Q&A as well as some training vlogs and different bits and bobs. Let us know in the comments if you enjoyed it. Any more questions for future ones, put them in the comments as well.